everybody, and welcome back to Louisiana Homestead. Today I'm also making another video, so I'm doing this in two videos. I did the first one with the deer roast and the potatoes and red beans and rice. Well, also I'm making another meal today with a chicken and dumpling and rice recipe. So I figured I would just split it up into two different videos. So this one's going to be the chicken and dumplings. Yesterday I did a chicken pot pie recipe, and I had boiled a chicken, and I only needed 2 cups of that meat for that recipe. Well, I still have another 2 cups of that meat, so I figured I will just do a chicken and dumpling with what's left of that. So let's get cracking. Alright, y'all, we're going to start this recipe of these chicken and dumplings with a roux. I'll put a 1/2 cup of vegetable oil down into the bottom of this black pot. It's heating up, it's getting nice and hot. And to that, I'm going to add a 1/2 cup of plain flour. I'm just going to add that right on in there with that. And I'm going to brown this flour up, and that's what's going to make our roux. This is a very good little spatula to use to make a roux with. I found this one at Walmart. My mom had one similar to this, and this is what she always used to make her roux with. So you see it's starting to bubble a little bit here. And I'm just going to start mixing it together, stirring it and mixing it. So I've got equal parts of flour and oil. I just want to get it combined so I don't have any lumps in it. I'm just going to get it browned up some. It will brown pretty quickly. As you know, flour is raw, so I am basically cooking this flour to the stage I want it to. And I keep stirring it because I do not want it to stick and I do not want it to burn. You'll be able to see that it's changing color. But I am wanting it to cook, so I'm not going to stop it now. I want it to get more brown than this. See, it's still not really turned much of a color yet, so we got to cook it a little while. But it's flour, so it'll settle and it'll stick, so you have to keep stirring it. See how I let it cook a little while before I stir it? And once it does start browning, you really have to watch it, because that's when it can get away from you. Now, some people like a very dark roux. I'm going to say that's going to be dark enough for me. And I'm going to add my onions in now. I got a medium onion chopped up here. And I'm going to add that down into my roux. I've got my fire turned off at this point. I'm just mixing my onions into my roux. Because my pot is so hot, these onions and roux is going to cook enough for where I want it to be at without it getting overdone. Because if you don't have a really hot stove, you would only want these onions to cook for about a minute. But since I have a really hot stove and a really hot pot, I'm not going to even bother turning the fire back on, because as you can see, it is well still cooking. And I'm going to continue to stir it because it's still cooking, and I don't want that roux to stick and burn. Once you have a burnt roux, you have to start over, because it's not going to be any good at all. It does smell good, y'all. It smells real good. You may remember that when I did my chicken pot pie, I had a little bit of that broth left over and I saved it. Well, I'm going to use it right now in this recipe. So give this one more stir before I add my broth in. Okay, that looks good. Now I'm going to grab that broth I saved. And I'm giving it a little shake because some of that chicken meat that was in it settled to the bottom. I'm just going to add that in. This is a quart of broth. And I want this to mix into my roux. So now I'm ready to turn my fire back on because this broth is cold. I had it refrigerated. I just want this to all mix in. I'm going to go on ahead and use the whole quart. I'm just going to let that cook for a little bit. Anytime you're cooking a gravy with a roux, you need to watch it too because it also can stick. So you want to be careful with that as well. Okay, for our dumplings, we're going to need 2 cups of self-rising flour. So that means it already has the salt and the baking powder in it. Also to this, we're going to add a 1/2 cup of milk and 2 tablespoons of room temperature butter. This is a 1/2 cup. I've got that canned milk in there, so I'm going to add a little water to it because that canned milk is condensed or evaporated. Okay, so here's our milk that the recipe calls for, and now we're going to work that in with our 2 tablespoons of butter. Here's our first tablespoon of butter, and here comes our 2nd tablespoon of butter. Okay, as you can see, our gravy is very thick, but that's okay because our recipe actually calls for another quart of water. So we're going to go on ahead and add that in now. And get that mixed in and let that all cook together. Okay, now we're going to be getting to more of the right consistency that we are after. Just make sure that's mixed in well. Okay, so here we go again. Letting that cook down. Alright, let's get our dumplings mixed up. We're just going to make this into a dough. We're going to roll it out very thin and cut us some little squares. If we need a little more moisture, we'll add a little more milk and maybe even a little more butter. But it'll just take a little working to get it all mixed in together here. As we are making a dough to roll out, we're not making a cake, so the batter is going to be a little dry. But I think this may be a little too dry, so we're going to add in a little more milk. I have some whipping cream on hand, and it has a lot of milk and fat together in whipping cream. So I'm just going to add a little bit of it because I don't have any more butter thawed out right now. So this I think will be a good option. Okay, that's getting a little better, starting to mix a little better, I think. Getting more like a consistency that I want to be able to roll out. That's probably going to be enough moisture right there. once I get it all combined in. It sure is getting nice and hot in this kitchen, I tell you that. Okay, we ready to get these dumplings rolled out? So let's get them onto this little surface here, our little work surface. Okay, I have a little flour here. Just gonna spread it on our work surface like that. And our dough is about ready, so we're gonna get that out of this bowl here. Alright. It's gonna be sticky. It's gonna be somewhat sticky to start with. So we're gonna try to get a little flour on my hands here to form a little bit of a ball. And try to coat this ball with some of this flour where I can just work it a little bit easier without it sticking to me. About like that, be good. And I'm gonna start pressing it out. Like this. And I'm keeping a little flour on the side because I'm gonna be needing it as I go. Alright. Pick this up. Get some more flour down here. Get some of that off to the side. That dough, you see that dough sticking to it? I don't want that on there. Push that off to the side. Start with some more just flour. Okay, there we go. So I'm going to basically press it out mostly, and then I'll start rolling it in a little bit here. Excuse the table, y'all, it's squeaking a little. Over again. Oops, trying to tear on me. All right. I got a squeaky table. It's an antique, but that's okay. I love it. Squeaks and all. Okay, see, if you just roll it out from the very beginning, you'll sure enough have some sticking problems. So that's why I keep doing this with it, turning it and flouring it. Okay, that ought to be to a good enough point now where we can roll it out. So let me start rolling it a little. It looks like it's going to be a good dough. You do have to roll it out thin. So that's what I'm doing. Rolling it out thin, and it's doing good, y'all. It really is doing a good job. Okay, got this in the way. Need some work surface here, y'all. That's probably thin enough, and I can start making some cuts in it now. Okay, before we cut our dumplings up, I want to cut up some of these green onions and celery to put into that gravy so that that flavor can get right on into that gravy for us. This celery probably looks a little different to y'all. This is just some cutting celery that I grew in my garden. It's very easy to grow and have year round. I'll have to show y'all my plant of that. Okay, we get this all cut up and get that into that gravy. And that's a lot of good flavor that's going to be available for us then. I want it to get cooked up in there. So that's why I want to throw this in there while I'm still working on cutting my dumplings up. Because our little gravy needs to be seasoned too. So I want to get that done as well also. Okay, so let's taste this and see what it's going to be needing. And instead of adding just plain salt, I want to add flavor. So I'm going to use this Better Than Broth roasted chicken base, and I'm going to put about a teaspoon in it. Like this. So that is going to give us a lot of flavor and probably plenty of salt. But we're going to taste it again in a minute. We also know it's going to be needing a little onion powder and a little garlic powder. And I do like pepper, so I'm going to add some pepper into it. But I think what I'm going to do is use some of this dried pepper that Mr. E made for me, the Iberia cayenne pepper that he dried in the dehydrator. I'm just going to add about a teaspoon of that right in there. Well, maybe not a full teaspoon because it is very hot. That ought to be plenty. Just going to stir that all in. Let it kind of cook in a little bit before I taste it again to see what else it may or may not need. And you know, even though I added that celery, I think I'm going to add a little celery seed to it also. I like cooking with that. And chicken and celery go very well together. Okay, let that do its thing. I may even add a little parsley to it. I think that would be a good companion as well. Okay, a little parsley. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to let that cook and then I'll taste it again in a little bit. And I'll go on ahead and get my dumplings cut out. Alright, let's see if we can cut these now. I have a knife to cut mine with, so it actually works just as good as a pizza cutter. And I'm just going to make some squares. Looks like it's going to go very easily. Actually, that might be a little big. Maybe I should make them a little smaller. I'm going very lightly, y'all, because I don't want to damage my work area. But I think it can hold up to this because I'm not pressing hard at all. If you have any trouble with your knife not wanting to go through, you can always put a little flour on it. And that will help it to go through a little easier. But I didn't even have to do that. I didn't have any problem with it. So I'm just going to pick them up and set them on a plate. Then I'm going to bring them over to my pot and drop them in there. I don't think I'm going to layer them on this plate. I'm probably going to just carry them over there one layer at a time and drop them into the pot where they can cook a little before, and that way when I come back and refill my plate, they can be kind of cooking in there and they won't all stick together. And this is going to give me plenty dumplings. Okay, so let's go add these to the pot. It's not boiling, but it is on. I may turn it up a little. I'm just going to put a layer of these in because I don't want them to stick to each other. I'm going to give them a minute to cook before I add my next layer in there, just to prevent them from sticking. Now I will tell you, I'm not a master dumpling cooker, so you may see something that you would do differently, but it looks like this is working out pretty well for me. Okay, it's a pretty good layer. I'm going to go on ahead and cut some more. And I am going to bring my fire up because it looks like I need to. Okay, you can see these are starting to bubble a little bit. I just want to press my dumplings down in there so that they can cook on both sides. I think it's safe to add our next layer in now. And I'll just keep going like this until I have as many of them as I want in here. I may not use all of them because I cut a bunch of them. I may save some of them and freeze them for another project. Okay, I think that's probably enough dumplings to our liking. And now I'm going to come back in with this 2 cups of deboned chopped up chicken that I had left over from yesterday. Just add that right in. I'm just going to let it cook for a minute or two until my dumplings are fully cooked. And that's going to be it. And since I still have quite a bit of dumplings left over, I think what I'm going to do is give them a little sprinkling with some of this flour. And I'm probably going to set this into the freezer. And once they freeze a little bit, I'll take them out and put them in a Ziploc and keep them for my next project. This is looking like it's about done. Again, flour is a raw product, so it does have to cook. And we'll serve this over some rice. I have a little bit of okra left over. I think I'll serve that okra with this too. I'm going to put the lid on it and let it finish cooking and turn the fire off. And I'll put those into the freezer so that I can break them apart very easily, and then I'll store them in a Ziploc to my next project. There's his finished potatoes.
Well, I wasn't planning on eating them tomorrow, so they're really not finished. They still need to be cooked a little bit.
You mean you wasn't planning on eating them today?
Today.
Okay.
But I'm going to get a little bite anyway.
Alright. Because you're just so hungry?
Yeah. I'm very hungry. What is this?
Chicken and dumplings.
We don't eat that much, do we?
No.
You make that, what, twice a year maybe?
Maybe.
But
I just had extra chicken, so I needed to do something with it, and I thought that would be good.
Well, I tasted those beans that you made for tomorrow's meal, but we're going to have plenty. And They were like happy comfort food. Did you tell people how you did them?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. Well, man, they are good.
It's a good way to do beans.
Might be one of my new favorites. Yeah, look at, man, they are so good. Good Lord.
And I opened, well, I had a little leftover corn I didn't want to waste, so I warmed that up, and some leftover okra too that I had cooked. What was it, night before last? I cooked that okra. Well, the okra is coming in, so we could eat okra every day.
Oh, it's delicious.
Yeah.
Do I have enough?
I think so. And I fixed you a glass of tea over there too.
I can't hardly hold the plate because some of this is hot.
Yeah, it's hot. Don't burn yourself.
It's the chicken.
Whatever you do.
But I want to taste this on camera for you.
Okay, thank you.
Because oh man, you cut the skin off of that homemade smoked sausage we got, and I guess she told y'all, but wow is all I can say for real. It's like one of my new favorites. Good.
Can you taste the chicken and dumplings too, and just see how that is?
I don't want to take that bean taste out of my mouth. They good.
They good?
Mm-hmm.
All
yeah.
right. All right, well, I'm going to let you get to your meal. We're going to eat, y'all, and we'll see y'all in a little bit. Okay, these are out of the freezer. They're frozen somewhat, and they're easy to pick up now. They've got a little flour on them, so they're going to be just fine to put in this little Ziploc until my next project with them. And I'll do that with all of them. And they'll keep till later. This concludes our chicken and dumpling video. I hope you'll like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, bye.